Welcome back, everybody. We got week 14 here, double D's. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Dave.
And we're here with fantasy stuff for you. All right. Playoffs are around the corner. Not just for the NFL, for fantasy. We've got, at this point, if you're running 6 in the playoffs, you're looking at playoffs next week. Most teams are starting one more week. This is clinching. You need to get in. We got some injuries here.
Yeah, a lot of implications this week. Like you said, some people's playoffs could start and some people are really looking to clinch. I know we have quite a tight league ourselves.
Yes.
I'm interested to hear about who you got on this injury report for us, Daryl, because this could have a lot of big factor for people out there.
Well, my two biggest one, you're looking at Julio. He's got this turf toe thing. I mean, if you got Julio, how do you not start him? He hasn't practiced. He's very questionable. It's something you got to keep an eye on. I myself think unless he absolutely cannot play, that they will make him play because guess what? They're tied with Tampa for first right now at 7-5.
Yeah, we'll get into Tampa later. I think that's going to be a very good game to watch, and I just don't see Atlanta being able to pull out a W without Julio. I mean, we'll talk about someone later in this segue here about who will have to pick up that slack. But who's next on your list there, Daryl?
Oh, Jordan Reed, another fantasy stud. He really is. He's got that AC joint sprain. Is he back? He was catching passes in practice, but is he going to play? I mean, the Redskins, it's another thing, too. If the Redskins have already clinched a playoff spot or are close, well, they're fighting for a wild card because the Cowboys have only lost once. I mean, the Redskins are 6-5 with that tie, so they're on the outside looking in. I think if Reed's capable of playing, they have to have him play. He's too much of a threat. But for fantasy owners, this puts you in a dilemma because what happens if he doesn't? Do you have a backup plan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just keep an eye on our page. We're going to update that. Right now, I plug Jordan Reed in there with no worries. I mean, you definitely want a second tight end on your bench if you don't have that. At least have an expandable player that you can drop before the game. I'm sure a Vernon Davis is out there, possibly a Lance Kendricks. I enjoy Jordan Reed. He's a game changer. I think he opens up other players in this offense. I think he can be a key reason on why they win this game. But being a Jordan Reed owner from a fantasy perspective here, not just like, oh, I need him to win. But if you're in, you're going to look at it like I do. Rest the man. I need him down the stretch.
I agree. That's why I'm saying look at where they're sitting. They're fighting for playoffs. Now, I know this might not affect too much fantasy-wise unless you're a New York Giants defense owner, but Jason Paul-Pierre, done for the year. That's huge. That really hurts their defense.
Daryl, does it count if I'm not a Giants defense owner, but I am a owner of $100 sports bet ticket with 18-1 odds on the New York Football Giants?
It counts. I mean, and I agree with you making that bet. I mean, 18-1 odds, that's your best shot at winning big money with a team. I mean, what are you going to pick a team that's got, 3-2?
Yeah, at that time last April, I felt with the defense, I put $100 million into it. They have Eli, they have Odell Beckham Jr. I like the wide receiving core. You got a decent running back. Moving on from there, though, I'll let my woes drown.
Sammy Watkins, he played the other week. He's hopeful to play, Rex is saying. Once again, another team fighting for playoff position of their own. Martellus Bennett.
Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry.
Can you stop naming players that are on my team, please? These guys, I have Sammy, I have Reed, I have Julio. I mean, whoa.
Okay, so I'll skip the next one. What do you think about players that used to be on your team? Is that acceptable?
Oh, God, who is it?
Well, that's half of them. So Jordan and Ryan Matthews for the Eagles are both back. I know you didn't have Jordan, but you had Ryan at one point, briefly. They're both supposed to be back. It's going to help Carson Wentz a little bit. He still doesn't have enough help there. Marquez Wilson for the Bears. He's got a groin injury. That's a questionable thing. Michael Thomas for the Saints. I know these are players you enjoy, Dave. He's missed practice. He's questionable. Do they play him or not?
Look for a person like Coleman to pick up a lot of slack there. Willie Snead with Michael Thomas out. I think Cooks gains a little more value there as well. But, I mean, we got to watch on him, too. He could be severe, it could not be. I think he's a good enough player to play on a short week. We'll see what happens come Sunday.
For the Bucs, Adam Humphries, he's still in the concussion protocol. He's
Do the
number 2 wideout. Do the Humpty Hump. I love it. Tavon for the Rams. He missed the other week. He should play this week. They're hoping he plays this week. I don't know. Once again, it's a scenario where if I'm the coach, but, Jeff Fisher, with all of his success, he's about to set the record this year for most losses as an NFL head coach. Well, I'd have to sit him for the future because the Rams are done this year.
I think it's a great matchup for the Rams in a fantasy perspective. You're going up against the Atlanta Falcons defense here, I do believe.
No, the Rams are in a shit fest this week. I'll put it bluntly.
Oh,
no, wait. My mistake. I was thinking of Jets Niners.
Okay, it is the Falcons.
Yep,
but
you're right.
Again, even with Tavon there, going up against the Falcons, someone here I enjoy more than him would be Kenny Britt and Lance Kendricks. I know we don't know what to do with Todd Gurley, but look for somewhere between, 12 to 15 standard points. If he gets more, you're happy. I like to avoid them, but again, in a flex spot, I like Kenny Britt this week against the Atlanta defense that is hurting the secondary greatly.
There is. Atlanta's probably going to win that game based off of their offense. Their defense hasn't really held true all year. Julius Thomas, he's out, possibly done for the year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was relevant, when he was orange.
Yeah, that happens.
Orange
he had
Julius.
Peyton Manning, too.
Yeah.
Orange Julius, I remember taking him third round on my back-to-back.
Well, okay, and then surrounded by Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, or Allen Robinson, Broken Hearns right now, and Marquise Lee.
And then with Gronk out, you'd think Martellus Bennett. Here's another guy. He hasn't really stepped up like you'd think he would with Gronk being out, but he's got a sprained ankle, and he's been playing through it. I mean, that's going to be a factor once again to watch out if you're an owner.
Yeah, he didn't step up, but do you think he might be saving it for the last dance?
Oh, there's always a possibility. Now we're getting into nagging. We're going to nag you guys. We've talked about these players multiple weeks. Ladarius Green, what did he do? Had a career game. Tyreek Hill, done nothing but tear it up. These people, somehow, if they're sitting there, you need them. This is time. Especially, you're a Jordan Reed owner. Ladarius is sitting there. Are you kidding me? He had 110 yards, like 6 catches last week. With A.J. Green out, Tyler Boyd, Brandon LaFell. Either one, take your guess as to who's getting it. LaFell's more touchdown
He's on
dependent.
Fire!
Yep, but Boyd's a better PPR play. LaFell's very touchdown dependent, and he's been hit or miss.
I have the Red Rocket ranked pretty high this week. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are definitely going to make some noise playing these Cleveland Browners. I've seen a meme today, and I don't know the exact win-loss records of both these teams over the last X amount of years that it had, but it showed their win-loss record, the other team being the Oakland Raiders. I mean, the Raiders seem to have a better team right now, but who would you pick to have? I don't know, I think it was over like the last 200 games or something like that, and it's just maybe 150. It was just abysmal. Over the last 10, 15 years, who do you think's had the worst career out of those two teams?
The Raiders and the Browns?
Yeah.
God, it's got to be the Browns, I would think.
I agree with you there. And I mean, it's just something, I don't know. The NFL boggles me sometimes. It really does.
It's amazing, isn't it? Oh, man. Adam Thielen, Minnesota Vikings. Great pickup this week, Dave. I know you've been very high on him. I like him this week as well. This is somebody, if he's sitting on your waiver wire, pick him up because guess what? Jalen Ramsey's going to probably shut down Stephon Diggs this week. I think he's a great one. You were talking about Charles Sims coming off IR. He's somebody to keep an eye on. If he's sitting there, you know what? You got an empty space. I wouldn't mind picking him up, see what happens. He might become relevant.
Yeah, I had him on my IR, especially because I am a Doug Martin owner as well. As most of you know out there that follow us all year, I am what they like to call in the fantasy world a handcuff whore.
Yes, you are, Dave.
I even did suggest back before Gronk got hurt that you should go get Martellus Bennett to handcuff to Gronk, and look what happened.
Or preaching on me when I had DeMarco yet that I need to go get Derrick Henry. I know DeMarco didn't sit significant time, but you're a key on that, on getting your studs. If they have a competent backup, I mean, if you got garbage backup running backs, fine, maybe you don't want to handcuff that backup. But if you have a competent or has the potential in a rookie like a Derrick Henry or a Kenneth Dixon, who you talked up earlier in the year, who's starting to turn into, hey, here and there, he's stealing from Terrence West.
In PPR right now, he's projected 3 more points than Terrence West is.
And then here's a couple desperation ones at wide receiver. Marquise Lee for Jacksonville. That's always a thought. Blake Bortles, he's the garbage time king.
When he's not throwing it at your feet.
That'll happen. That'll happen. I mean, it's Blake Bortles. We'll get into him earlier.
Shoelace!
I got some Blake.
Shoelace!
Yes. Speaking of that, in one of my leagues this last week, I started Shoelace at running back because I was desperate for a running back. No lie. I had people on bye. I had DeMarco on bye, and I'm looking at who am I starting at running back. My other running back was Duke Johnson. I'm pretty rough there, so I started Shoelace in a PPR league, and he got me like 7.5, and I was so ecstatic for it. I'm like,
absolutely.
Shoelace, dude's the man. Here's another one. You mentioned this man also, Dave. Robbie Anderson from the Jets at wide receiver. I mean, Bryce Petty's starting, and he's been targeting the heck out of him lately.
Yeah, well, I mean, towards the end of the third quarter last week, pushing into the fourth, finally towards the end, Indy just read it and picked it off because they just targeted him over and over and over. I think he finished with 60 yards or so. He definitely had a touchdown. If you're desperate at wide receiver or you run in a deep league, he's definitely someone that you can put in and look at least 10-plus points with the upside of 25. I mean, Bryce Petty, he has Brandon Marshall, he has Matt Forte. I'd like to see what he can do in all four quarters. I'd like to see what he can do in the future. I don't see things going good for them this week.
No.
But, I mean, definitely someone that you can look at if you really have to.
Well, not just seeing him for a full 4 quarters, something like that. Seeing him with a week's worth of practice reps is the number one under his belt. That's huge. You brought that up about Landry Jones when he was sitting for Berger. When he was thrust in their mid-game situation, he wasn't always super successful. But when he had a full week of practice, guess what? AB's still fantasy relevant.
Everyone hit their numbers that week.
All right. We got Redskins, Eagles. Rivalry game. Deshaun's coming home. He plays well against the Eagles. The Eagles are sitting at 5-7. Redskins are sitting at 6-5-1, fighting for the playoffs. Problem is, they've given up 62 points with no takeaways in their last 2 games. Cousins on the year, Kirk Cousins, he's just been a stud, averaging 317 yards passing a game. He's got his left tackle back. They were having problems last week. Guess what? Trent Williams is back. He off a 4-game suspension. Even if Reed doesn't play, guess what? It doesn't matter. They still got Crowder. And Crowder steps it up when Reed is out. If Reed doesn't play, look at starting Crowder. I mean, he's going to be a stud with Reed out. Now you have the Eagles offensively. 14 points a game in their last 3. That's what they're averaging. Wentz, he's averaging 43 attempts for their last 6 games. He had 60 last week against the Bengals with no offensive weapons at wide receiver. This team is really struggling. The whole Wentz bandwagon fell through. I'll admit, I was on it when they started out the year. They were hot. Their defense was hot. They're starting to fall apart. Their defense is getting shredded. That being said, I think Cousins goes off. I think Reed, if he plays, is going to have a great game. If he doesn't, Crowder is going to have the game that Reed would have had. Deshaun, I think Deshaun finds the end zone. He balls hard against Philly. Ryan Matthews being back, the Redskins' run D struggles. I think Ryan Matthews might have a decent game. I could see that coming out of nowhere. That being said, Wentz still is struggling with the rookie woes. Redskins 38, Eagles 20.
The one thing that comes to mind is earlier this year when we watched the Philadelphia Eagles play the Pittsburgh Steelers at home and just dismantle them.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to completely compare this game to that magnitude, but I do have to disagree with a few things, and it's not the numbers. I believe Jamison Crowder is a guaranteed wide receiver 2 each and every week for the rest of this year, minimum, with or without Jordan Reed. I have him ranked as a wide receiver 1 this week, actually. Whether Reed is there or not, he just seems to find the end zone over and over. Now, if you're talking about a standard league, you can definitely manipulate the situation there a little bit, but in PPR, he's definitely the type of guy that I want on my team. I said it earlier. I did not give Kirk Cousins the respect he deserves this year, and I would like to give it to him. I think he's going to be a top-flight QB this week. We know about the Eagles. They don't have a deep wide receiving core. We don't know what they're going to do with the running back situation. With Ryan Matthews back, we do believe that Sproles will still be the number 1 guy there, but will Matthews find the end zone?
That's the thing, is Matthews is going to get those touches. He tends to do that. He's that guy that one week he's going to rush, 18 times for 100 yards. Next week he's going to rush 5 times for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Well, with that being said, I have this basically the same type of score that you do. I have the Redskins winning at 35-22.
We're pretty close.
Pretty close.
Pretty close there, Dave. All right, we got the 6-6 Texans, 6-6 Colts in Indianapolis. Guess who else is 6-6? The Tennessee Titans. Three-way logjam for first place in that division. The Texans, they're 28th in offense overall, 30th in passing. Clowney, Jonathan Joseph, they're both day-to-day. Their defense is going to struggle. J.J. Watt's out. The Colts, Andrew Luck's coming off guess what? It was against the Jets. I guess it doesn't really count. But Luck's been a beast in December. They're 23-6 against the Texans. I don't see Indianapolis here in a game like this. You almost, in my opinion, you have to go with the better quarterback, and Andrew Luck is by far the better quarterback. I think T.Y. and Moncrief, I think they get theirs. If Jonathan Joseph doesn't play, that's going to be the worst thing for him. I feel is their best corner. Frank Gore finds the end zone. Colts take it 31-21.
Well, I have a question for you, Daryl.
Sure.
What we seen out of Andrew Luck last week in New York against the Jets, if we remember, I believe it was a week or two ago, the New England Patriots played the Jets. Tom Brady, I do believe, only threw for 2 touchdown passes and less than 300 yards.
Wasn't that on the road also? Wasn't that New England?
That puts a cherry on top of that cake.
I think
we're looking at Andrew Luck throwing. He threw 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah, he did.
There was a rush in there, not from him.
It was 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah, Turbin, I think, put it in the end zone. And I see what he did, and do you want to call it a fluke where the Jets not playing as hard as they should have? I don't know, but I think that is something that Tom Brady doesn't want to see in the playoffs to potentially have to face. I know they don't have the greatest offensive line, but they have the offensive weaponry to go and beat a New England
Patriots team like that.
Team.
Especially, I think losing Gronk, guess what? It doesn't hurt them right now. It really doesn't, because they're guaranteed playoffs. They could lose out, and they're pretty much in. I mean, they're going to get in. Will they be the number 1 seed? I don't know. The Raiders just lost, so there's a good chance of that. But losing Gronk is going to hurt them once they start playing teams like the Colts, where they can put up points.
Yeah, see, I don't even want to talk about the Texans because I went on this huge rant last week, and then Lamar Miller got banged up during the game and really didn't do Jack, Horace, John, or Jerry. So with all that being said, I think the Texans find a way to put a couple points up on the board. How they do it is a myth to me, too. It could be in garbage time like last week when DeAndre found himself the end zone and gave our friend Daryl here a little bit of a scare. I do have this game, the Colts winning 28-17.
Wow, and then we have a game that, I don't know, I guess in a way it's relevant. Bengals, Browns. All right, here's why it's relevant. This is probably the Browns' best chance to win the whole rest of the year. They're 0-12. The Bengals at 4-7-1, guess what? That mathematically, yeah, they still have a shot at the playoffs. Ain't happening. A.J. Green's still out, and obviously, Gio's done the rest of the year. I know Andy Dalton tore it up last week. Guess what? I think he's going to have a very good week this week again. He's playing the Browns. Now, RG3, there's rumors he's going to start, but Hugh Jackson, he hasn't committed to who's going to start yet. That's a tough call. Is it fantasy relevant? Well, if it comes down to you starting RG3 or Cody Kessler, you're already in trouble. So we're not even going to go there. But it is fantasy relevant to the point for Terrell Pryor and maybe Corey Coleman, because RG3 is more likely to go deep than Cody Kessler. That's about the only way. Browns are 31st against the run this year. Bengals have Jeremy Hill.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they do. He's kind of a stud in this game. He's a stud.
Yeah, I kind of let Antonio Brown go for the factor that Gio got hurt, and I pulled back Terrence West, Jeremy Hill, and
a game like this,
Sterling Shepard.
Is Andy Dalton going to have to air it out? No, he's going to have a good game, but I think Jeremy Hill just runs the shit out of the ball. Browns lose this game regardless of who starts at quarterback. Bengals 27, Browns 17.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely crown on the rocks because we don't start Kessler and we don't drink Kessler.
No,
feel the burn, baby. Feel the burn. This week, and hopefully that is just something you don't need to talk to your doctor about. This week, I have Jeremy Hill ranked number 3. I think he's going to be a workhorse. I've seen at one point last week he had 20 rushing attempts and less than 30 yards. He finds his way into the end zone. If you play in a quarter point per carry, you're even happier to be a Jeremy Hill owner.
Yes.
If you're in a standard league, you're ecstatic. PPR league, you still have to play him whether you have the implication of the quarter point or not. I do have Mr. Red Rocket ranked number 2 on my quarterback list this week because he has Tyler Eifert. I think Eifert has a big week. Dare I say he catches 5 passes, 80 yards, touchdown. We do both believe Jeremy Hill is going to see a lot of that rock, but, Tyler Boyd, LaFell, he's got players to throw it around to.
Eifert should have a good game. I mean, you look at what he's matched up against. I mean, they're going to try and stack on Jeremy Hill.
Oh, and I mean, RG3's in the game, so at least, hey, this week we'll get another injury timeout to go refresh our drinks, get some more food on the table. I'm not hating on you, RG3. I'll take you as a backup in Pittsburgh because we're not going to have to pay you anything, and we might only need you for a play or two just to snap the ball and win the game. I trust you more than Mike Vick. With all that being said, I got nothing special to say about the Browns. Their only upside is the young man in Coleman and Terrell Pryor that has emerged this year. Cincinnati wins this game with ease, 33-10.
All right, we got the 8-4 Broncos, 6-6 Titans. Titans are, still tied for first, but they're struggling. Much like the Texans. They really are. I know Mariota's played very well this year. He's been a shocker as a fantasy quarterback. They got the 3rd best rushing offense in the league. You got the Broncos. They're giving up 122 yards a game rushing. And they only average 77 yards rushing themselves on the road. I think they're going to struggle here. I think their defense is still going to be good enough. I think Mariota, not a guy you want to start this week. DeMarco, I think DeMarco gets his. I really do. I have him in my top 10 yet just because the Broncos, you beat them on the ground. Simeon should be back for this Broncos offense, but like I said, I still think their defense is enough to win this game. I have the Broncos 23, Titans 17.
Yeah, I enjoy the Broncos defense. They're back and healthy. I think they're going to start to get into their groove thing. They definitely have to win this game if they want to find themselves in the playoffs. I was going to ask you a question if you didn't touch on how you thought one of the running backs at least would do this week. In my opinion in this game, the Broncos don't have to just stop DeMarco. They can stop DeMarco, but now can you stop Derrick Henry? You're bringing in someone with the same type of, figure, that he's big, he's bulky, he's going to be able to run hard, they're going to ground and pound. I mean, I know Denver's got a good D, but if Denver's D is on the field too much, like I touched on earlier when we were talking about like rule changes in fantasy and whatnot, I'm a firm believer that I don't think defenses should ever get negative points, and your defense could get punished because their offense can't stay on the field and you're out there getting winded.
Or for example, your quarterback throws a pick 6. No, all of a sudden that counts against your defense if you own that team. Say you own the Texans and they throw an interception that gets returned for it. Well, that's points scored against the Texans, and that's a negative effect on your defense when your defense wasn't even on the field for that play to give up those points.
Absolutely, and that's why I start our league with at least 20 points for a shutout. It gives you that leeway. Your defense has become relevant. I like Emmanuel Sanders. I've said it for the last couple weeks. I thought he was the best wide receiver there in Denver. Demaryius Thomas barely made my top 30. The guy, I don't think he scored 7 standard points again last week. It's just a shame because there's a lot of talent going to waste. With all this being said, the Denver defense holds true. They win this game 24-21.
Pretty close again, Dave. All right. The 5-6-1 Cardinals had playoff, possible Super Bowl aspirations at the beginning of the year. 7-5 Dolphins in Miami. Now, David Johnson, possible MVP candidate. People aren't talking about him as one, but he should be. If Cardinals had a better record, they probably would be. He's had over 100 yards from scrimmage every single game this year. He's accounting for 39% of the Cardinals' total yards from scrimmage, all by himself. And this week, he gets to take his talents to South Beach, where Miami gave up more turnovers last week against the Ravens than they did in their whole 6-game winning streak. They gave up 2 in 6 games. They gave up 3 last week against the Ravens. The Cardinals are 0-3 on the East Coast. They're giving up 34 points per game there. I think Carson Palmer's still going to struggle. I feel sorry for Larry Fitzgerald. David Johnson gets his as he always does. I mean, Dave, you got to love owning that man. I think Jay Ajayi is going to have a pretty good game here. Miami's surging. They fell last week against the Ravens in a game that I do believe, Dave, you and I both picked to go the other way, let alone to be a 38-6 blowout. I think going back home, they refine themselves once again, reestablish it. Tannehill rebounds. They ride Ajayi. I think Miami takes this game. Maybe I'm going with my heart here, but Cardinals have struggled on the East Coast. Carson Palmer struggled all year long. Miami 31, Cardinals 24. They ride Ajayi.
Daryl, you asked me, I must be in love with David Johnson. And I must say to you, the last time I heard someone say the phrase that you uttered, and my little self gets so excited, was the decision.
Yes.
When LeBron took his talents to South Beach, baby. Woo! We're talking about David Johnson, the number 1 fantasy player in my heart, and more than likely on your team. If you're looking to make a championship run, you want this man. I'm telling you what, I don't care if the Cardinals lose by 45 or 50, he will be the reason that they put points on the board. The only other guy that we've seen score, minus Floyd found the end zone. Where has he been all season? Has been Jermaine Gresham. Come on, you got a top flight defense. You go to the fucking playoffs last year and you shit the bed this year. David Johnson, I feel bad for you, but you got upside, baby, because you're in the playoffs with me. With all that being said, I had the Dolphins turning around this week. Devontae Parker ranked inside my top 30. He's starting to topple over Jarvis Landry. You gotta look at him next year if you don't have him this year. Finds the end zone, and we know what happens here. Dolphins win 28-17.
Thank you. That makes me feel so much better that I'm not going from the heart because a Steelers fan just went off.
I did.
In a game the Steelers aren't in.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I did that.
I love it.
Put that on your tweeter.
Bears, Lions, and Tigers.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Don't touch my porridge.
Bears, Lions. The Bears are 3-9. Starting who? Matt Barkley. The Lions, well, guess what? Better quarterback. They're starting Stafford. They're 8-4. Last week was the first week all year they won a game that wasn't a come-from-behind fourth-quarter victory. The Bears, Jordan Howard, he's a guy that's not getting any attention in this whole Rookie of the Year race. I know Zeke and Dak. That's the problem. It's hard to get attention when you have players ahead of you like that. Jordan Howard's averaging almost 5 yards a carry at 4.9. About to break the 1,000-yard barrier. He had 111 rushing yards last game against Detroit. He is the whole Bears offense right now. He's the reason why they let Matt Forte go. I mean, you know, we struggle with this. I know why other teams didn't pick him up. I don't get that part of it, but I get why the Bears got rid of him. Hey, we got this dude on a rookie contract. He is that good. He is. He's their only offense. The Lions, their defense has stepped it up with the return of a couple of key starters. Nagata, he's stepped it up. Great free agent signing. Their run D stepped up. Somehow they held New Orleans last week. I don't understand that. It was Breeze at home. Their defense stepped up. I think it was 13 points they gave up the whole game. That being said, Stafford continues his tear. Golden Tate's going to have a good game. I think Theo Riddick, I don't have him top 10. I'm not going to go there with him. 15 to 20 range. Golden Tate's going to have a good week. Stafford, you look at the Bears. Jordan Howard's almost a top 10 running back this week. He's their only offense. They're going to lean on him. Doesn't matter. Lions take it 27, Bears 14.
Yeah, Theo Riddick is something that we have to look at too. He's battling a wrist injury right now. We'll definitely update that on Sunday. I actually have the Bears ranked 6th right now in my overall defenses. I was very impressed with what I've seen. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. As I said, the Lions are for real. When we seen what they did to Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints last week, on the road.
And Breeze is a beast at home.
Yeah, I was very impressed. Their defense looks phenomenal. And I know where I have the Bears D ranked 6, and you're going to look at my score and you'll be like, how is this? Well, the defense, if you have the right type of scoring, right type of league, pick sixes come in huge, things like that. And, the Bears, they have a tough defense. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I also enjoy Golden Tate this week. Matthew Stafford will get his numbers. I think his ceiling's 3 touchdowns. I feel he's getting 2. They have an all-around good team there. Matt Prater with a good leg. And I think that's what's going to seal this game here. I got nothing negative to say about Barkley, and I think it's a hard-fought game. Lions going to take this one, though, and with any luck, they get a Packers loss and win again next week, and I do believe they clinch the division, and that would make me one happy camper.
Bears, Lions, and Packers, oh my. Steelers, Bills. Man, I wish I had the enthusiasm to go off on your team like you did with mine. We got the Steelers at 7-5, the Bills at 6-6. Man, it ain't nothing on Rex. This one's on Rob. We've learned not to bash Rex. Bills have lost 5 games out of their 6 this year, scoring 24 or more points. That tells you your defense is giving up way too much. If your offense puts up 24 plus, 30, you should be winning games. They're not. They got the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They're averaging 161 yards rushing a game. They got 23 rushing touchdowns. Me being a LaShawn McCoy owner, I'm happy this week. I was pissed last week because guess what? All them yards, Gillislee had 2 TDs.
Vulture of the week.
He was the vulture of the week. The Steelers, Ladarius, we've been nagging. You need to pick this guy up. Career high, 110 yards last week on 6 catches. Won me my week. Him and the guy we were talking about in the game prior, Golden Tate, were the 2 key players for me to win my week and clinch a playoff spot in my money league. The Steelers are averaging 380 yards of offense their last 4 games. Their offense is clicking. Ben's healthy. Ladarius is opening up the middle of the field in a way that Jesse James couldn't. What did we see, Dave? 2 straight drops by Jesse James, one of which was a clutch 3rd down the other week.
I replay it over and over again.
No doubt. I know Ben struggles on the road, but the Bills' defense has the answer for Berger struggling on the road. That being said, Shady gets his. He always does. Watkins is hurt. He's going to get 6-7 catches. Gillislee's probably going to vulture him again. You're starting Berger. You're starting AB. You're starting Le'Veon. And guess what? You should be starting Ladarius. Steelers 35, Bills 31.
You know what I have to say about the whole Rex Ryan situation? Fuck Rex Ryan.
Oh, no.
This is our week.
Oh, no.
This is our time. We're about to take this division over, and no one can stop us. I've had a couple people talk to me about this, and they're like, Dave, it doesn't look like the Steelers are that high-octane offense that they had a year prior. Let's not forget here who they don't have in their wide receiving core and haven't had all year in the big target, Martavis Bryant. I do think fantasy owners should take into consideration that if you own Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, I think it benefits you not to have Martavis because a lot of targets would go to him as well.
Yes,
something that I see in this game is a lot of volume from the running backs. I love the battle of Le'Veon Bell and LaShawn McCoy. I think it's a better matchup than saying Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, different styles of a running back.
Right, Le'Veon and LaShawn have very similar styles.
I'm with you. Last week, Ladarius was a God-sent saint. I picked him up out of free agency in my standard league. It was win and clinch between the gentleman and I to get a bye in our playoffs. And between Ladarius, Denver, and Seattle, I put up 60 points within reason. I think this is going to be – I want to see Sammy Watkins. I have this a very high-scoring game. Big Ben gets his. Tyrod gets the haters to stop. Don't hate the guy. Give him a little more. I mean, yes, you have Sammy. Yes, you have Shady. He's not asking for the world, but he needs a little health and consistency around him the whole year on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, before we can really judge this guy. I mean, is he my top 10? No, but he's someone that gets more shade than he should. He's just like a Sam Bradford to me. It's someone that I don't hate with a different style of football
where
play.
You feel almost bad for him. I mean, you look at his offense. He had Sammy Watkins gone for pretty much the whole year. He's back now, but he's still hurt. What is their offense besides that? They don't throw the ball a lot.
Yeah, and Shady got banged up a couple times in there too, and I mean that was, and they fought through that. With all that being said, I think it's going to be a great game. The Steelers' defense has really showed up, so maybe the Bills don't score this much, but I think I'm giving them the respect that they deserve with a Tyrod Taylor, a Sammy Watkins, and definitely a LaShawn McCoy. This game being going very good for the Steelers, 35, Bills 28.
All right, another guy I don't hate. The 5-7 Chargers, 4-8 Panthers. I don't hate Phillip Rivers. I feel bad for this man. I've stated it many times before. He's got a lot of injuries. Does that excuse 3 pick sixes this year? I don't know if that does. I mean, having Keenan Allen gone, he's still got Tyrell Williams who stepped up. Is that something? Can you blame all the pick sixes on injuries? I don't know. But he's also got 7 picks in the last 3 games. They've got 25 giveaways, which is tied for with the Jaguars for first. The Chargers are. That's ridiculous. But then you've got Cam. He's been completing less than 50% of his passes the last 3 games. Kuechly, is he going to play yet? We don't know. That's huge for this defense. The Panthers are struggling. Chargers are too. That being said, I like Phillip Rivers in this game. I know you mentioned it earlier, Dave, about Phillip Rivers. He's probably going to throw a pick or 2. Probably going to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns on top of it. I like Melvin Gordon in this game. I don't like Cam. I don't like anybody on the Panthers offense. Even Greg Olsen has fallen off with Cam and his inefficiency lately. That being said, I think the Chargers take this game. Going to be kind of sloppy, even though the score might not reflect it. San Diego 27, Carolina 17.
I do like one relevant player. I do believe it is the last 3 weeks in a row. Ted Ginn Jr. has found the end zone.
Yes.
He's a viable option if you need in a flex play, possibly if you're really banged up at the wide receiver 2 spot, but there should be an option out there. I agree. Phillip Rivers throws a couple interceptions, gets his, whether it's dumping it off to Melvin or Melvin doing it on the ground. They're going to work together very well. This Panthers team has not looked anything like itself from last season. We touched on it earlier in the year. We do believe the defensive pieces that they let go are exposing themselves now because they can't just get their offense out on the field the same way that they were last year. Their defense was just a force to be reckoned with. I almost like the Chargers defense this week more than the Panthers.
I do too.
Tyrell Williams, Inman, PPR threats. Who's guaranteed to get their touchdowns this week? I don't know. But I will tell you this. Chargers will win 24 against the Panthers, scoring only 17.
Vikings-Jaguars. The Vikings, man, starting out 5-0. Well, they're 6-6 now. Somehow coming off their bye week, they're 1-6. Their offense has been averaging 16 points per game since week 7. They haven't scored 20 since week 5. Harrison Smith's, you know what? He's hurt. Might not even play. Blake Bortles. Is he the franchise quarterback? I don't know. He's got 11 pick sixes in his career. He's only got 10 career wins. He's got more pick sixes than he has career wins. They're averaging 15 points per game at home in their last 3. We were talking about Marquise Lee. I think Xavier Rhodes shuts down Allen Robinson. I know Blake's garbage time, not going to matter. Jalen Ramsey also shuts down Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. Thielen is the guy to own if you're flexing somebody on a flyer. You don't want to start him as your wide receiver 1, but I think he's a good flex play. Kyle Rudolph should have a pretty good game because I don't hate Sam Bradford either. He's going to check down to him a lot. That being said, I think the Vikings defense still carries this through. The Jaguars offense, the Jaguars whole team is a dumpster fire. Minnesota 17, Jacksonville 10.
Again, I don't have to touch a lot on this game. I mean, if you're really banking on Allen Robinson, I do apologize. We've downgraded him the last couple of weeks greatly. I mean, even mid-season we were talking about that. The Vikings, We mentioned Thielen for over the last 5 weeks. Now, here's the thing. I agree that he's not a wide receiver 1, but let's say Diggs was your wide receiver 2. I could easily flip that out if I have Thielen
Right,
and
I
put
agree.
him in there and
I agree.
confident. Flex guarantee there if that's the option that you have available to you. We touched that it's the Shoelace and Yeldon show out there. It's very sketchy against this Vikings defense. I think Asiata finds the end zone again for some reason. He finds it every week. And yes, I don't hate Sam Bradford. I mean, it's going to be a quiet game. There's going to be some points scored. I think the Jaguars struggle until late in the fourth, and they score about 10 of the 17 I have them projected for. That being said, Vikings win this game 24-17.
Well, you're looking at the number 4 pass defense in Minnesota and the number 2 pass defense in Jacksonville. And a big part of the reason is these 2 young corners. You're talking best corners in the league. You hear about Richard Sherman. You hear about Peterson in Arizona. You don't hear so much about Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Rhodes. But guess what? These 2 are top 5 lockdown corners. They really are. And they're not a guy like a Richard Sherman that's going to play one side of the field. They're a guy that's going to shadow your best player and shut him down all game. Now, we have a complete shit show here. I'll put it bluntly once again. This is the one that I thought you were talking about originally with the Rams.
Chips Aboyd.
Oh, boy.
Bulls. Chips Aboyd.
Speaking of Rex Ryan, we're going back to his old team. The Jets, 3-9 against the Niners. Niners are 1-11. Okay, now, last week the Niners played the Bears. You can count their net passing yards from last week and their total wins on 2 hands. They have 1 win. They had 6 net passing yards last week. Kayla, I'm sorry, we recommended Kaepernick. Yeah, not a good play. He's been hot. What can you say? Everybody gets it wrong sometimes.
Whoopsie!
Fitzpatrick for the Jets. He's got the Captain Caveman worst touchdown interception ratio in the league. That's why Bryce Petty's starting. And he's going to look to start the last 4. You're talking about Robbie Anderson.
Bryce Petty.
I think the Niners in this game, you own Matt Forte. I used to. I foolishly traded him pre-start of the year. The Niners are just going to key off him, shut him down. Carlos Hyde is going to struggle against this run D, but they have nothing else. So they're going to ride Carlos Hyde. It's going to be a slot fest.
Slot fest? Are we winning? Are we winning big?
We better. We better. Lots of turnovers.
Sorry, I got money on my mind.
Niners take this game 10-6.
Wow, you have this game extraordinary low there, huh?
Yeah.
I think I seen a little more out of Bryce Petty than that. I mean, the 49ers are going to score. We got a team here that likes to throw to their tight end more than any of their wide receivers in the 49ers, the Vance McDonald. I just have one question for you, Daryl. Who did you trade Matt Forte to preseason?
The guy that I don't trade with anymore in fantasy, Dave. That would be you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
It was a great trade.
I'm sorry. I just had to get that one out there for one last time before we meet again in the playoffs, because if you don't know, Daryl's the only person to beat me this year, and he's done it twice.
And we're the only 2 to have clinched in our league on top of it.
We have a very tight league, and I think it makes for an
is.
interesting thing. It'll be fun to watch. I'm pulling for everyone in our league. Best of luck to you, because you have a road ahead of you. With all that being said, I think the kickers shine here more than anything. There's going to be a final score of Chips Ahoy winning 24 against the Toilet Bowl Boys 17.
Love it.
Do you think the coach loses his job over this, Daryl? I mean, I don't think it's Todd's fault there in New York.
You mean Mr. Balls?
He's passing a lot of them.
I think they're struggling. I don't know if he gets fired. Chip Kelly's secure in his for the moment.
Oh, God, why?
I know, but they just signed him. They're not going to bail on him right away.
Even though we got Carlos Hyde, guy.
They're not going to bail on him right away. He's stuck with Kaepernick and Gabbard at QB.
That's rough.
Yeah. And Carlos Hyde and nothing else. All right, we got Falcons-Rams. Falcons are sitting at 7-5. The Rams at 4-8. Their season's done. They're at home, but they've scored 4 touchdowns all year at home. Goff is starting. He's got 31.9 for his QBR in the year. He's 0-3. He's averaging less than 170 yards passing per game. It's pathetic. Tavon Austin, whether he comes back or not, I don't think it matters. The Falcons have the top scoring offense in the NFL. Julio plays, it's going to hurt him, but at that point, I feel they just ride Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. If Julio plays, you got to start him. If Julio doesn't play, you better be starting Tevin Coleman. I think he's going to have a big game if Julio's out. That being said, I don't want anyone on the Rams. I could see Brian Quick getting a sneaky one. I agree with you there. Falcons, I like Devonta Freeman. I like Matt Ryan. I like Julio if he plays because he's Julio, and if he's playing, you still have to account for him. That being said, the Falcons blow this game out. They're tied for first right now with the Bucs, so they're fighting for the division. Atlanta 35, Rams 7.
We were almost spot on the score there. I'm giving the Rams a little more respect this week. They do have a top-flight running back, just not a very good offensive line that produces any lanes for him. They do have Lance Kendricks, a very big target there at the tight end spot. I enjoy Kenny Britt. You know, both of us were looking a week ago, and we were looking at a certain Kansas player in our league that had a Kenny Britt that was at like 0 points going into the fourth quarter. And next thing you know, because we have the bonus points for a 40-yard TD, he's got 18. I can easily see something happening like that against this banged-up secondary that the Falcons are producing. I'm sorry for those of you out there that have Julio and haven't clinched. As a Julio owner that has clinched, with a lot of implications of him being one of my main players, I wouldn't mind seeing them resting him this week. Our playoffs don't start till week 16. I do understand if you have him and need him, you want him in there. But trust me, if you're in the playoffs, you need him more then than now. You should have a backup plan. With that being said, I do have the Falcons with your score of 35, but the Rams putting up 17.
Well, Saints Buccaneers. We were talking about the Saints. They're 5-7. They only scored 13 points at home last week against the Lions. The Bucs. They're 7-5, tied for first with Atlanta. Jameis, 4 weeks ago, he had to come out and he declared it. He's not a loser. Guess what? They've won 4 games straight since he said that. They're looking to make it 5. But the Bucs have allowed 119 yards rushing in their 7 of the last 8. I don't think that matters so much here. Their pass rush has stepped it up a little bit. The Saints don't like to run the ball. Drew Brees, this whole Saints team's kind of been up and down. Normally they're beastly at home, but they scored 13 last week at home against the Detroit Lions team that's 31st in defensive efficiency. But they put up 49 against the 10th ranked team. There's no consistency there. They tend to go off when they go off. That being said, I like Jameis this week. I like Mike Evans this week a lot. Mike Evans is a top 3 wideout this week. He should have a great game against the Saints secondary. Doug Martin, you got to be a little worried. He sat out a couple drives at the end of the game last week. Is that going to be something that's going to carry over? I don't know. It's kind of scary. The Saints, you're starting Brees. If you got Michael Thomas, you got to start him. After that, Cooks, yeah, you're starting them. It's kind of a crapshoot with that offense, though, as far as who's going to get the receiving touchdowns. That being said, Jameis carries them to victory in Tampa. Buccaneers 35, Saints 28.
The only thing I'm not enjoying right now is this tempo of the Saints team. I'm just not. They don't seem like they're in beat and in sync. And you know what I think one of the problems is? They only need to go with one running back. I get you, this league is built on having multiple running backs.
We don't agree with it, though.
Workhorse, Mark Ingram. The reason, and I didn't touch on this in the last game, you said you like Devontae and Tevin a lot. I do too. We watched Mark Ingram go for 146 yards on him. I believe he had 22 reception yards. He had a touchdown at each of the cats.
146 on what, 12
Tim
carries?
Hightower did the same thing. I mean, running backs can do work on the LA Rams. In this game, we watched Tampa just dismantle the Seattle Seahawks when they were at home. And I think that's how I come with my end score here. Infatuated with Mike Evans. I have him at 2 this week. You mentioned top 3. He's my number 2. Jameis Winston, very good. I think we're going to see some points, though. We talked about it before the podcast, a little bit during. I like the Sneeds and the Colemans of the world this week. With that being said, look for a very good game to watch this week as the Buccaneers beat the Saints 31-28.
Man, and now we have a game. They're not in the same division, They kind of got a rivalry going on. Seahawks at 8-3-1, going to Green Bay, playing the Packers, 6-6. You know, you got the Fail Mary game with the questionable ref call on the touchdown. You got Seattle's epic comeback in the NFC Championship game against these teams. Packers and Seahawks, they don't like each other. I know they're not in the same division, but this is almost a rivalry game. The Seahawks team, they were struggling on the offensive line. Their running game was struggling. Russell Wilson was struggling. But they had 240 yards rushing last week. They've had 3 straight games with over 100 yards rushing. The Packers, A-Rod, you want to talk about running? He's 59 yards away from being the Packers' leading rusher. He's behind Eddie Lacy. And he ain't playing no more. So the A-Rod might end up leading this team in rushing by the end of the season. They're struggling at linebacker, and this is huge because the Seahawks, you got to account for Thomas Rawls. You got to account for Doug Baldwin. Guess what? Now you got to account for Russell Wilson. Who's going to be accounting for Russell Wilson? The linebackers. Who else is going to be accounted for by those linebackers? Jimmy Graham. Well, Clay's ailing. I don't know. In my opinion, I'll put it out there. Too many roids. Your body breaks down. He's ailing. Nick Perry's out. Blake Martinez, he's out. You got 2 linebackers out and one that he's hurt. That's really going to hurt this team facing Jimmy Graham, facing Russell Wilson, facing Thomas Rawls. Doesn't matter that it's in Lambeau. I think this Packers team, there's still something wrong with them. I know they won the other week. Doesn't matter. A-Rod, you got to start him at home. He's a different quarterback at home. He still has a good game. You know, their receivers, I don't like their receivers in this game. None of them, because you don't know where it's going. Jordy has that potential. So, yes, he's going to be top 15 because he has that potential. Randall Cobb. Is it going to Cobb? Is it going to Devontae? Shit. Is it going to Jeff Janis? You don't know. That being said, I think Russell Wilson and Jimmy Graham and Thomas Rawls, the 3 of them make this game. Seattle's defense does just enough. The Seahawks take it 24-21.
I have it opposite here. We have Snowstorm Aaron rolling in Saturday night into Sunday. I think we're going to see a sloppy mess like we've seen the week before. Again, we don't know which receiver it's going to go to for the Packers, and because of that, I have Aaron Rodgers. He might not even make my top 12 with this snowstorm. Right now I have him in there. I will update it on Sunday. It's going to be a very tough game. I think we see a big workload out of Rawls because it only takes one slip or missed tackle for him to go upfield and get it done. I mean, we've seen Devontae Adams last week have a big gainer called back because he slightly stepped out of bounds, and I think that's the type of play we need to see this game for it to have high scoring. It can happen with players like you mentioned, Doug Baldwin, Jimmy Graham. But my personal belief, the Seahawks just need to ground and pound on this Packers defense that has been struggling. I see the Seahawks winning this game and really setting back Mr. A-Raj himself.
Relax.
The Seahawks winning, baby, 13-10.
All right, Cowboys-Giants. The Giants are the only team to beat the Cowboys this year. Happened week 1. Cowboys clinched playoffs. First time these two teams played this year, Giants held Zeke to 51 yards on 20 carries, but it was his first game in the NFL. Right now, the Cowboys are scoring touchdowns on 66% of their red zone trips. That's huge. 2/3 of the time in the red zone, it's a TD. The Giants, meanwhile, they gave up 24 points last week, which was the most they've given up in 2 months as a defense. Like you were talking earlier, they gave up all this money to try and improve their defense. Well, Jason Paul-Pierre, we're talking about him being out. That's huge. I think the Giants are going to struggle. You'll see bad Eli this week. Odell might find the end zone. That's about it. Don't see him going off. The Giants, they like to try to pretend they can run the ball. They can't. Zeke's going to get his. He always does. Dez finds the end zone, and you know I love me some Dak. Dak's a winning quarterback, and they win again this week. Dallas 31, Giants 20.
I am with you on a lot of senses of this game, boss. I needed to pick an upset this week, though. And I think
Oh, no.
it might come with a little biasness of
Is this
my
because
bet.
of the sports bet?
You know, you got to ride it a little bit. But again, understand that it's a divisional game.
Yes.
Eli's at home. I would have thought the same thing, though, week 2 when Eli had Drew Brees, and that it would have went off. But we don't.
We thought that was going to be super high scoring.
Eli missed a couple passes last week that if they were on the target, they have a couple more scores on the boards. But if ifs were ands and ands are buts, and we know horseshoes and grenades, we know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Close only counts in horseshoes and grenades. There we go. Anyways, with all this being said, we know Zeke's going to do what he's going to do.
Yep.
We see Dez getting his TD. Odell Beckham Jr. needs to step it up. It needs to be a little bit high scoring of a game for the Giants to win this. They need to figure out what to do with their defense. With all that being said, Robbie Gould will win this game for the Giants. The New York Football Giants, 26-24. Dak that in the books.
Haha, Dak that. We're going to Monday night now. Last game of the week. Ravens-Patriots. Another one of those rivalry games that's not in the same division. Ravens and Patriots, they play each other. They hate each other. Ravens are 7-5, fighting for their division title. Pats at 10-2, number 1 seed in the AFC now that the Raiders have lost. Brady, he just took over the career wins leader at quarterback. Still not the GOAT in my opinion. Great quarterback, not the greatest quarterback ever. These defenses, the Ravens defense gets mentioned, the Patriots defense doesn't. Guess what? They're both tied for second fewest points allowed in the NFL. The Ravens and the Patriots. You don't hear about the Patriots defense. Flacco, you know what? His 4-touchdown game last week, it was a fluke in my opinion. He's only had 3 games this year with more than 1 touchdown. You can't count on him. I think Justin Tucker's still the Ravens MVP. He's my number 1 kicker this week. That being said, Pats still have enough to win this game. I think Edelman's going to have a good game. Brady, I don't see Brady throwing for 300, but I think they ride LeGarrette Blount. They ride Julian Edelman. And the Ravens just don't have enough. Tucker does his best, but it's still Patriots 23, Ravens 18.
Yeah, the weapons that Brady still has, even with Gronk out. I mean, we go down the list, and obviously we know our Deion Lewis's, our James White's, our LeGarrette Blounts, and that's just our running backs. But let's go a little deeper here. Who's going to get it? It's just like the Packers. Is it going to be Hogan? Is it going to be Amendola? Is it going to be Mitchell? Will it be Edelman? The one
Will it be James White out of the blue?
Yeah, and he was mentioned. I mean, and we're looking at this, and it's like, okay. I said last week I needed a couple key players to step up in that standard league. Ladarius was one.
Yep.
Another one, Gostkowski got me 17 in the standard, baby. You know, nothing special with it, but that's huge. You're getting double digits from a guy like that. I was getting worried. I actually at one point almost dropped him because he was missing field goals, and you can't have that. You get punished more in our keeper for that. You really do. I'm not going to challenge the hooded one. I give Harbaugh his respect in full. This will be a higher scoring game, so it may affect their lowest points allowed, in my opinion. But on the leg of Gots, the hooded one walks away victorious. The Steelers hold their heads up high and look for hope to face the Ravens again for the divisional decider. And we all know we're going to get it, baby! And the hooded one wins 24-21.
I agree. I don't pick against the hooded one at home.
Fuck
Belichick or bust. What you got for Belichick or bust, Dave?
Taylor Gabriel. And this is not just based around with Julio playing or not playing. We didn't see a lot out of Gabriel last week. I want to see him come back, but that's why he's a boomer bust, because we've already seen what he can do when he booms, and he can be a difference maker for your fantasy team. My second one here, Matt Asiata. You know, we've seen some consistency with him finding the end zone, but I want to see him getting there twice this week. If not, expect a complete busteruno.
Man, I'm going with Tyrell Williams for the Chargers. He's been kind of boomer bust. He's stepping it up a little more lately. And I'm going with Jay Ajayi. Have to be biased that way. I think he bounces back this week. Carries Miami to victory. Well, everybody, good luck in your playoff seedings. And may the fantasy gods be with you.
Gryffindor!